There's a moment in life that almost nobody talks about. A moment so quiet most people miss it completely. It doesn't happen during the screaming, not during the panic attack, not during the worst night of your life. It happens later, after everything. When the world finally goes silent, and you realize something inside you is too tired to keep pretending anymore. Maybe you're sitting on the edge of your bed, staring at nothing. Maybe it's a late-night bus ride with your headphones in, but no music playing. Maybe it's 2 a.m. on a cold bathroom floor while everyone else is asleep. The place doesn't matter. The feeling does. That strange inward collapse like a bridge, carrying one final pound it was never designed to hold. And the terrifying part is how quiet it feels. No dramatic breakdown, no tears, no chaos. Just a soft voice somewhere deep inside whispering, "I can't do this anymore." People who haven't carried too much won't understand this feeling. But the people who have, they recognize it instantly, because for them, collapse was never loud. It was controlled, silent, almost graceful, like the mind trying to protect itself from shattering completely. It's the nervous system finally lowering its guard after years of bracing for impact. The heart finally admitting it's exhausted from being strong in silence. And hidden inside that moment is a question most people never stop to ask. Why do the people carrying the heaviest pain often look the calmest on the outside? People say things like, "You're so calm," or "Nothing seems to bother you." But what they're seeing usually isn't peace, it's numbness. There's a difference. Peace lets you feel safely. Numbness keeps you from feeling at all. When the nervous system gets overwhelmed for too long, it doesn't always explode. Sometimes it shuts down instead, like a computer entering low power mode just to stop overheating. Your emotions flatten. Your reactions slow down. Joy feels distant. Even pain starts feeling muted. And people mistake that emotional shutdown for maturity, wisdom, emotional control. But your brain isn't relaxing. It's surviving. That's why some people stare at a text for 20 minutes before replying. Why they sit in conversations smiling softly while mentally somewhere else entirely. Why they say "I'm good" automatically even when they feel nothing inside. Their nervous system learned that feeling too much was dangerous. So eventually, it turned the volume down on everything. And if your emotions sometimes feel delayed, flat, strangely quiet, that doesn't mean something is wrong with your personality. It means your body learned to hold things in until it believed it was safe enough to fall apart. Calm is chosen. Numbness is survival. There's a kind of maturity people admire deeply. The thoughtful pauses, the calm voice, the person who explains painful experiences without sounding bitter. People hear them speak and think, "Wow, they're so emotionally intelligent." But sometimes that wisdom wasn't grown naturally. Sometimes it was forced into someone far too early. Some people become wise through guidance, love, and stability. Others become wise because life gave them no safe place to be soft. When you grow up around emotional chaos, unpredictable moods, tension, slammed doors, or people you constantly had to read carefully, you don't simply mature. You adapt. You learn to scan everyone else's emotions before understanding your own. You learn how to comfort adults while you're still a child yourself. You learn how to recognize tension from footsteps, silence the sound of a door closing a little too hard. While other children are learning bike tricks and cartoons and playground games, you're learning emotional survival. And yes, that survival makes you perceptive. It makes you emotionally aware. It makes you the person everybody turns to because somehow you always understand exactly what someone is feeling before they even say it out loud. But there's a painful truth underneath that. That wisdom was extracted from you, pulled from experiences that should have never belonged to a child in the first place. And that's why so many emotionally mature people secretly carry grief inside them. Not just pain grief. grief for the version of themselves that never got to fully exist, the softer version, the lighter version, the child who had to grow up too fast because life kept demanding strength before they were ready to carry it. Long before some children learn who they are, they learn how to stay safe, not because danger is always obvious, but because unpredictability changes the brain in powerful ways. When emotions in a household shift suddenly, when silence feels threatening, when affection feels inconsistent, the nervous system adapts by becoming hyper-aware, always scanning, always preparing, always waiting. Neurologically, the brain's alarm system, the amygdala, becomes overactive. It stops reacting only to real danger and starts reacting to possible danger too. Imagined danger, remembered danger, tiny shifts in tone, facial expressions, energy changes in a room, and suddenly survival becomes your default setting. That's why some people replay conversations in their head for hours afterward. Did I sound weird? Were they upset? Did I say too much? That's why a single delayed text can quietly ruin their entire evening. Why someone's softer tone instantly makes their chest tighten. Why they notice tension in a room before anyone else even realizes it exists. To outsiders, it looks like intuition. To psychologists, it's hypervigilance. To the person living it, it's just normal life. And maybe the saddest part is this. The very skills that protected them back then continue activating long after the danger is gone. They still brace for storms during sunny weather. Their nervous system still reacts to ghosts from environments they no longer live in. Their brain didn't become too sensitive. It became too prepared. A survival masterpiece built under pressure. Still learning how to exist in a world that no longer requires armor every second of the day. People who've been through too much develop emotional skills most people never even realize exist. Not resume skills. Survival skills. They know how to read silence, not just hear it, read it. They can tell the difference between disappointed silence, irritated silence, exhausted silence, fake silence. They notice posture changes, eye contact shifts, the pause before someone says, "I'm fine." Most people walk into a room and notice furniture. Survivors walk in and immediately feel emotional temperature. They know when somebody's pretending to be okay. They know when conflict is about to happen before the first harsh word is spoken. They know when kindness is genuine and when it's performative. And maybe most invisibly of all, they know how to shrink themselves when attention feels unsafe. How to become quieter, smaller, easier, less noticeable. Because somewhere in their past, visibility came with consequences. And the heartbreaking thing is, these adaptations don't even feel unusual to them anymore. They feel normal, automatic, muscle memory. The emotional reflexes of someone who spent years trying to keep peace without ever making too much noise. Love becomes complicated when your nervous system associates closeness with danger. Even when someone genuinely cares about you, your body still braces. Some people become avoidant. They love deeply, but distance feels safer than vulnerability. So they pull away the moment things become emotionally real. Not because they don't care, but because caring feels terrifying. Others become anxious. A delayed text suddenly feels like abandonment. A different tone feels like rejection. Their mind starts racing instantly. Did I do something wrong? Are they losing feelings? Should I apologize? And then there are people who crave intimacy while simultaneously fearing it. They want closeness desperately, but flinch the moment they actually receive it. They want to be held, but the second someone gets too close, their nervous system whispers, "Careful, something bad always happens after this." So love becomes a contradiction. I want this, but I don't know how to feel safe inside it. That's why they overthink good moments, why they rehearse heartbreak before anything has even gone wrong, why they apologize too quickly, forgive too easily, doubt their worth even while being deeply loved. They aren't afraid of love itself. They're afraid of losing themselves inside it. Afraid history will repeat itself again. Emotional exhaustion rarely announces itself dramatically. It arrives quietly, slowly, almost invisibly. At first, you still show up, you still answer messages, still smile, still function. But something inside begins fading little by little. Your laughter becomes softer, your words become shorter, your presence becomes smaller. You start feeling tired in ways sleep can't fix. Even simple conversations feel heavy. Even deciding what to eat feels exhausting. And because you've spent so long carrying everything silently, nobody notices the weight crushing you underneath the surface. So you begin drifting away from the world gently, not because you stopped caring, because caring became too heavy. And when somebody finally asks if you're okay, you smile automatically and say, "Yeah, I'm fine." Not because it's true, but because explaining the exhaustion would require energy you don't even have left anymore. There's also a kind of grief almost nobody talks about. The grief of losing yourself slowly over years of survival. People who've carried too much often mourn versions of themselves they barely remember. The version who trusted easily. The version who laughed freely. The version who didn't analyze every silence, every facial expression, every change in tone. They miss the version of themselves that felt light. And how do you explain that kind of grief to someone? How do you tell people you feel homesick for a version of yourself that only existed before survival took over? A softness you couldn't keep, a childhood you didn't fully get to live, a freedom you discovered too late. But healing isn't about pretending those versions of you never existed. Healing is learning to honor them, to recognize that every version of you, even the anxious one, the numb one, the hyper-aware one, was trying to protect you the best way it knew how. Healing starts with awareness, not judgment, just noticing. Noticing how your chest tightens after a harmless message. Noticing how your body reacts before your mind understands why. Noticing the survival patterns that once protected you, but now exhaust you. Then comes regulation, teaching your body that it no longer has to live on the edge of danger every single day. Through breathing, grounding, walking, stretching, rest, safety, compassion. Tiny moments where your nervous system slowly learns, maybe I don't have to brace all the time anymore. And eventually something beautiful begins happening. You stop surviving automatically and start living intentionally, because your brain is not broken. It adapted, and adaptation can happen again. This time not for survival, but for peace. Not for endurance, but for softness. Not for fear, but for connection. There comes a quiet moment, almost easy to miss, when you realize everything you survived gave you a depth most people will never fully understand. Not because suffering is beautiful, but because surviving taught you how to hold pain without losing your humanity completely. And slowly, without realizing it, you became a lighthouse, not because you were never hurt, but because you remember what darkness feels like. You became the calm voice, the patient listener, the person who understands pain without needing every detail explained. Your survival became insight. Your pain became compassion. Your reflection became wisdom. And now, maybe for the first time, your life no longer has to be only about enduring. Maybe it can become about creating something softer than the life you came from. If this spoke to something deep inside you, if you felt seen even for a moment, stay with us. Subscribe to the channel and share your thoughts below, because sometimes the story you're afraid to tell becomes the exact light somebody else desperately needed to find.